My name is Emily, and at 43 years old, I find myself navigating life's twists and turns alone. 2 years ago, my husband John, who was my age, was taken by a sudden heart attack. His absence left a void that seemed insurmountable. We had hoped for children, but fate had different plans, leaving us in a silent ache of unfulfilled dreams. Guilt often washed over me, knowing John's deep longing for fatherhood. Yet in his wisdom, he reassured me, our happiness doesn't depend on children. It's in cherishing each other, just the two of us. We held on to those words tightly, crafting moments of joy amidst our shared sorrow. But life's capriciousness had another chapter in store for me. In a cruel twist, just as we found solace in each other's company, I found myself grappling with the stark loneliness of his absence. In this unforgiving reality, circumstances led me to reside alone under the same roof as my late husband's mother, a woman with whom I frequently found myself at odds. Our living arrangement became the result of John's parents' divorce, with his father now a presence in our shared dwelling, a two-family abode offering the only solace in an otherwise strained situation. Yet as time passed, my mother-in-law's visits grew more frequent, perhaps driven by a longing for her departed son. I couldn't help but feel apprehensive. Her demeanor was often overbearing, punctuated by subtle jabs. "What exactly do you mean by that?" I would inquire, bracing for the inevitable sting of her words. "It's because he ended up with someone like you that John's no longer with us. You bear some responsibility," she would assert, her accusations as sharp as ever. Her reproaches were nothing new, but each time they cut deeper. "Are you seriously suggesting that I'm to blame?" I challenged, grappling with the weight of her accusations. "Perhaps he fell ill because you couldn't manage his diet properly. I suspect your cooking was too rich. His weight gain after marriage speaks volumes," my mother-in-law asserted, her words like barbs aimed directly at my heart. While it was true that John had put on weight since our wedding day, he always praised my cooking and savored each meal with genuine delight. His kindness knew no bounds. Even if the food had been supper, he'd have eaten it without complaint. "If only you had been more vigilant about his health, this tragedy could have been avoided," she continued, her tone heavy with accusation. These words, delivered by my mother-in-law in the somber days before John's funeral 2 years ago, struck me like a thunderbolt. Blaming me for John's illness and passing was a cruel twist of fate, one that left me reeling with pain. Though I knew the accusations were unfounded, the constant repetition took a toll on my psyche, making an already difficult time merely unbearable. For my mother-in-law, Joe must have been the center of her universe. The abrupt and untimely loss of her beloved son must have been excruciating. I could empathize with her struggle to contain her emotions. However, her attacks on me intensified with each passing day, a development I had sadly anticipated. "Because of you, my precious son is gone. Were you plotting to inherit his insurance money all along?" she accused, her words cutting like daggers. How many times must I deny such baseless accusations? "It's simply not true," I retorted, trying to maintain my composure. "You deliberately avoided having children just to claim his insurance money, didn't you? You're a devious woman," she spat venomously. As a couple, we longed for children and pursued every avenue, including medical assistance. But despite our efforts, we were unable to conceive. "The notion of profiting from insurance is ludicrous," I explained, my patience wearing thin. "Do you honestly believe I would fall for such a charade?" she scoffed, her disbelief palpable. "Each day without John is a torment for me. I can't pretend to be anything other than what I am," I replied, my voice tinged with sorrow. "Why do you utter such cruelty? It would have been better if you had never been part of our lives. Why did Joe have to endure this? Your words are unbearable. I can't bear the thought of never seeing my son again," she lamented, her anguish pouring out in waves. "What would John think if he heard you now? Pointing fingers won't bring him back. Joe was a remarkable and hardworking son. His loss is incomprehensible. It would have been easier if you were here. There's a line you don't cross. Some things are better left unsaid." Oh, I'm just talking to myself, voicing thoughts that have been haunting me. "It's nothing you need to concern yourself with. What's your ultimate point? Leave? And why should I leave? Your presence is suffocating. I won't demand it today, but please vacate this house at the earliest. Since John's passing, ownership rightfully belongs to me." "After John's passing, you've probably got your eye on the insurance money and the house, haven't you?" she accused, her tone heavy with suspicion. "You're making wild assumptions. I wasn't even aware of any insurance payout until after he passed. I defended myself, feeling the weight of her distrust bearing down on me. Her discovery of the insurance payout seemed to fuel her suspicions, as if she believed I had orchestrated John's death to secure the house and money. No matter how hard I tried to reason with her, she remained steadfast in her mistrust. I felt like I was reaching my breaking point. Living under the same roof was becoming unbearable, each day more mentally draining than the last. The next day, the tension boiled over. "You must be living the high life now. No need to worry about work with all that insurance money rolling in. Is that why you're here, to rub it in?" She sneered, her words laced with bitterness. "It's not fair to twist my words like that. I can't take these constant jabs. I understand you're grieving for John, but it's not right to lash out at me. I miss him just as much and feel the ache of his absence every day," I replied, trying to maintain my composure amidst the storm of accusations. "Seriously, spare me the act. You've got it made with the house and money, don't you? Playing the devoted wife role, I see," she sneered, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I won't entertain such accusations. We face our own struggles, particularly with not having children, but I love John deeply and envisioned a future filled with cherished moments together," I countered, trying to hold onto my dignity amidst her onslaught. "It's astounding how you can speak so freely with everything falling into place for you. Must be nice having life handed to you on a silver platter," she retorted, her words cutting deep. "That's a heartless thing to say. If I could trade the money and the house just to have John back, I'd do it without a second thought," I confessed, my voice tinged with sorrow. "Ah, so you're implying you don't need the insurance money then?" she pressed, a hint of skepticism in her tone. "Why would you even suggest such a thing? Just because I don't need it doesn't mean I'll refuse it. This money represents John's last gesture of love and concern for my future without him. I intend to honor that sentiment," I replied firmly, determined not to let her diminish the significance of John's final gift to me. "You have no shame," she spat, her disdain evident in her tone. Feeling the strain of our cohabitation weighing heavily upon us both, I summoned the courage to broach a topic that had been weighing on my mind. "Can we put an end to this arrangement?" I proposed, hoping for a resolution to our ongoing conflict. "What do you mean?" she inquired, her tone wary. "We argue every day, and it's taking a toll on both of us. I believe it's in our best interest to part ways," I explained, bracing myself for her response. "That sounds like the most sensible option. Please make arrangements to vacate the premises soon," she replied, her words tinged with finality. "It's you who should be leaving. This house belongs to me," I countered, feeling a surge of indignation. "I can't believe you're trying to evict me. You're even more heartless than I thought. The house is too large for me alone. I'm contemplating selling it and settling elsewhere. Besides, properties in this area fetch a good price," I declared, determined to assert my own interests in the face of her hostility. "Seems like every conversation with you circles back to money. How much is enough for you? If you're considering selling, why not just hand the house over to me? It'll be too much for you to manage alone, and the expenses, like property taxes, could become overwhelming. I could help you find a more suitable living situation, like an apartment. Are you suggesting I pay rent to stay in my own home? If selling is your plan, then consider handing it over to me. Renting an apartment would likely be more economical than maintaining this entire house. I can't commit to monthly rent payments, but I'm willing to contribute towards it. If that's the arrangement, so be it. I'm relieved to finally break free from living under the same roof with you. I always feared it would come to this. Just promise me you'll provide financial support." "Agreed. Let's start the search for an apartment soon." So, we made the decision to go our separate ways. Despite our complicated relationship, my mother-in-law is the mother of my late husband, John. I feel a duty to support her, especially considering her financial struggles. With this in mind, I began the search for a suitable apartment for her. "I feel like I've let you down. The diagnosis was a cerebral hemorrhage, but thankfully, it wasn't life-threatening. I spent 2 months in the hospital, including my recovery time. Throughout my stay, my mother-in-law never once came to visit. It was my parents and sister who took turns caring for me. Their unwavering support allowed me to regain almost normalcy in my daily life with only minor lingering symptoms. And before I knew it, my 2-month hospital stay had passed and the day of my discharge had arrived. I had initially planned to temporarily stay at my parents' place, but upon returning home to gather my belongings, I was greeted by a startling sight. "What? Where's the house? What happened?" I exclaimed, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. My mother-in-law appeared as though she had been expecting me. Congratulations on being discharged. I didn't expect you to look so well. It seems there are minimal lingering effects and I can resume my usual routine. I'm relieved to hear that you're doing better. But what happened to the house while I was in the hospital? I inquired, my mind reeling with questions. Well, you see, I sold it for around $150,000, she replied matter-of-factly. What do you mean you sold it without consulting me? I demanded, incredulous. I had a friend who was eager to live in this area. Her husband works nearby, and they needed a place urgently, so I went ahead and sold it, she explained casually. Selling it without even informing me is completely unacceptable, I protested, feeling a surge of anger. It's not that big of a deal. I received an offer right after you were hospitalized. I figured even if you recovered, you might struggle to live independently and could end up in a care facility, so I made the decision on my own. Don't be upset, she said, trying to justify her actions. I can't believe this. Thanks to me finding a buyer, we got $150,000 from selling the house, she added, as though it were a positive outcome. I can't believe it. While I was in the hospital, my mother-in-law sold the house without consulting me. Apparently, their acquaintance had always coveted the land surrounding my house, and my mother-in-law took it upon herself to arrange a private sale, I recounted, feeling a mix of shock and betrayal. Are you seriously considering selling someone's house without their consent and pocketing the proceeds? I questioned, appalled by her audacity. But the house was originally in John's name, wasn't it? She countered, attempting to justify her actions. While that may be true, I fail to see how that concerns you, I replied, growing increasingly frustrated. Anything that belonged to my son John is rightfully mine, she asserted, her tone unyielding. You seem to conveniently interpret things in your favor, but that's not how ownership works, I retorted, feeling exasperated. What exactly are you implying? She challenged. When John passed away, the title of the house transferred to my name, I explained, hoping to clarify the situation. And what's your point? She asked, seemingly unfazed. Selling a house without the owner's consent is bordering on criminal behavior, I stated firmly, unable to hide my disbelief. Please refrain from calling me a criminal, she snapped defensively. Who would have thought you'd consider life as usual after hearing about the cerebral hemorrhage? That doesn't give you the right to sell it, I argued, struggling to contain my frustration. Why the hostile expression? Do you honestly believe you'd win in court? How about we split it 50-50? That way, we each get $75,000, she suggested nonchalantly. It's not about the money, I snapped, feeling my anger rising. Then why are you so upset? While I was hospitalized, she single-handedly sold her house and used the proceeds to purchase a condo for herself. Strangely enough, there was a condo neighboring our old house for sale at around $75,000, and she's currently residing there. To top it off, she relocated my belongings to her new place. It seems that during those 2 months of my hospitalization, she doubted the severity of my condition and took it upon herself to make significant decisions. It was time to confront the self-centered woman with the truth. The house is no longer in my name, I revealed, my voice tinged with resignation. What do you mean? I demanded, struggling to comprehend her actions. I started the process of selling the house while I was in the hospital, she confessed. And what of it? I pressed, my frustration mounting. Due to its prime location, the sale was swiftly arranged. I was meant to handle the paperwork post-discharge, but it's already been finalized, so there's no turning back, she explained matter-of-factly. You must cancel it immediately, I insisted, feeling the surge of urgency. It's my property, so I see no reason to cancel, she countered, her tone firm. You need to explain the situation to your acquaintance and return the $150,000. I urged, hoping she would see reason. What are you suggesting? I've already purchased a condo, she revealed, her response leaving me speechless. So you're only willing to return half of it? I asked, feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief. Then you'll need to sell the apartment you're currently residing in to repay the remaining sum, won't you? I pressed, determined to find a solution. My clients are also considering demolishing the house, so it's convenient for them. I need to proceed with the necessary procedures, so please arrange for the refund promptly, she insisted, her tone resolute. Wait a minute. We're not finished discussing this, I interjected, feeling a sense of urgency. I'm considering returning to my parents' home, so I'd appreciate it if you could arrange to have my belongings sent there, I requested, hoping for some semblance of cooperation. Wait, I have a feeling today will be the last time we see each other. Please take care, she said, her words tinged with finality, leaving me with a sense of resignation. After that incident, I severed all ties with her. Later, I heard she apologized to the acquaintance she had sold the house to without my consent and reimbursed them. The total expenses, including demolition and inconvenience fees, amounted to roughly $170,000. Additionally, despite selling her apartment, its value had decreased since her purchase, leaving her with substantial debt. On the other hand, thanks to her actions, I saved on demolition costs and made a significant profit from selling my house. A new home was constructed on the land where John and I had once lived. Seeing the new house brought back memories of the happy times we shared, evoking both nostalgia and sadness. Despite my reservations, I decided to visit the site. To my surprise, someone I never wished to see again appeared. Well, it's been some time, hasn't it? She greeted me. Why are you here, mother-in-law? I asked, taken aback by her unexpected presence. I'm heading to work, she replied casually. You're going to work now? I questioned, surprised by her response. Yes, she affirmed. So you've started working? I inquired, puzzled by this newfound revelation. I'm drowning in debt because of you, I accused. How can you say that? I'm not responsible for your financial troubles, she retorted defensively. What happened to the assistance you promised with my apartment? I pressed. Our relationship has ended, so any previous agreements are null and void, she replied coldly. John would be devastated by all of this. I would tell him the same, I stated, my voice tinged with sadness. What do you mean? She inquired, her tone softening slightly. John always prioritized me and treated me with kindness. He was considerate, wasn't he? I reminisced. What's your point? She asked, sensing where the conversation was heading. You used to blame me every day, saying that John's death was my fault, I reminded her. And it's the truth. How do you think John would feel if he knew? She fired back. Mother-in-law, if it weren't for John, you would be in a much worse situation, I pointed out. Are you still going to insist on that? Will it change anything? She challenged, her tone bitter with resentment. I have no interest in being lectured by you. With all the money you now have, you should take on some of the debt burden. After all, we're still family, aren't we? She retorted, her tone tinged with bitterness. I never truly cared for you, but I intended to support you because you're John's beloved mother, I confessed. Well, that's the least you can do, she replied, her voice laced with expectation. However, I can't overlook some of the hurtful things you've said and done since my stroke. I can't simply forget the pain caused by your words, I admitted, feeling the weight of unresolved grievances. That was months ago. It's time to let go of grudges, she insisted, brushing off my concerns. It's not easy for the person who was wounded by those words to simply move on, I countered, my frustration mounting. You're quite stubborn, aren't you? Call it what you want, she dismissed, showing no remorse. I'm no longer involved. By the way, shouldn't you be at work by now? I redirected the conversation, eager to end the confrontation. Ah, look at the time. Take care on your way, she responded, avoiding the topic. If it weren't for you, I'd be enjoying a peaceful retirement, I remarked bitterly. It sounds like you regret your decisions. Instead of blaming others, perhaps it's time to reflect on your own actions, she suggested, deflecting any responsibility. After expressing my thoughts to her, I walked away from the confrontation. I recounted. It's only been 2 years since John passed away. Thanks to the financial security he left behind, I've been able to build a stable life. His legacy means everything to me, and I'm determined to honor it wisely. I've invested in an apartment close to my parents' home where I now reside alone. Though I long for John's presence, I take solace in the belief that he watches over me from above. My aim is to lead a long, fulfilling life, cherishing the memories we shared and living for both of us. My ultimate dream is to one day reunite with him in heaven, where we can relive our cherished moments together.